Hello, everybody. Tommy here, World at War Comics. Before I get into my next guest, please hit that subscribe button, hit the ring bell, share this out to all of your friends. We would love to make sure that this channel gets exposed to everyone. All right, without further ado, my next guest is five-time Emmy-nominated Daniel Kibblesmith, who is the current writer on Duckwing Duck. I cannot wait for you to check this out. It was a lot of fun. Without further ado, here is Daniel and I. Enjoy. Well, hello everyone. Welcome to World at War Comics. I have an amazing guest, Mr. Daniel Kibblesmith, five-time nominated Emmy comedy writer. Absolutely incredible. In fact, you were actually nominated for a Writers Guild as well, which is pretty
I
huge,
was.
Daniel. Yeah.
I was, yeah, during the talk show days. That's right.
Exactly, yeah. So you work very closely with the Colbert Show,
Mhm.
and obviously you've done some amazing stuff in comics, from Black Panther to Loki, Spider-Man. Like, you've done a lot, man, and it's really exciting to be able to talk to you. And of course, today we're going to be talking a little bit about Darkwing Duck as well. But before we jump into that, I always like to ask this question, if it's okay, Daniel. Where did the passion for storytelling begin? And I would even throw a little bit of comedy in there just because of your background, and were there people in your life that really encouraged that?
Yeah, sure. I always knew that I wanted to. When I was five, I had a book called Dr. Seuss's My Book About Me, and in the line where he said, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" I wrote, "Make movies." Now, to be fair, I have absolutely not done that. I have made zero movies. It seems pretty stressful. I'd love to, at some point, but haven't yet. So that being said, I always knew that I wanted to work in entertainment, to make entertainment, and to put it out on a national stage, or global stage in the case of something like Marvel and Disney. So I watched a lot of like brain melting, like meta kids stuff, like the Muppet movie, where it's like a movie about the making of the movie, and Gremlins 2, where they're like all this like proto Adult Swim stuff that really like wrecked me.
Yeah.
And I always wanted to be a part of it. And I realized that, I was funny, and that being funny was an avenue for storytelling, an avenue for information. And, even today, with screenplays that I admire, like I always notice when really pivotal information is delivered through jokes, because I think that's such a sly and powerful Trojan horse. So I loved shows like Darkwing Duck, things that, I loved Batman the Animated Series and X-Men the Animated Series, but I loved the sophistication of blending it with comedy, and the accessibility of blending it with comedy. Like The Tick, is certainly like that's probably my Mount
Yeah.
Rushmore, Darkwing, Batman the Animated Series, X-Men, and The Tick.
Dick, for
Uh,
sure. Incredible.
it's
That 90, was it
incredible stuff.
99 series on Fox that only ran 1 year?
It keeps coming back. There's
Oh,
going to be more Tick. There will be another Tick television show, and I can't wait. Hopefully, I'm involved in some capacity.
I still watch it every once in a while. I think Tubi, you could watch it for free, and those were just classic comedy. I mean, the Amazon one was pretty good too. Got a couple seasons out of that, but it took a little bit more serious tone, which I think was more true to the original. But that comedic 90s TV series, one of my favorites of all time.
It's I love the Amazon one as well. Yeah, I mean
Yeah.
it's so, and this is another thing about combining comedy with other genres, is that it makes everything so elastic. And from a writing perspective, it really gives you so many tools and so much power to take the audience on a journey and surprise them. And when I'm writing a character like Deadpool, let's say, the thing that my wife always says is like four issues of funny and one issue of sad. Like that's like the Daniel Kibblesmith like approach to a mini series. So yeah, I love that stuff. I'm good at it, and I think it's such a direct and powerful way to reach people.
No, absolutely. And I feel like that follows along with Darkwing Duck so well. Even the comedic timing, the back and forth. I loved everything about issue 1 and 2. It's been a lot of fun. So congratulations on that.
Thanks so
Earthworm,
much.
yeah, Earthworm Jim was another one that
Oh, huge into Earthworm Jim. Yeah,
yeah,
obsessively played Earthworm Jim. Yeah, I only saw a little of the show. I only saw a little bit, but the games, I lived inside those games for years.
so good. But they had I mean, perfect for kids, but it had that kind of adult humor that, if you were old enough, you caught that would just blow you away in laughter. So my mother used to watch that with me when I would watch the cartoon, and she'd be laughing at things I didn't understand at the time. And it was just perfect for both of us because it was able to do two things at once, keeping,
Absolutely.
an adult and a child entertained at the same time, which I thought was a lot of fun.
Absolutely. I think that's so important, and it's so much a part of what we're doing on Darkwing. Real quick, you mentioned the comedic timing, and I want to shout out the arts team, especially the primary artists, Brant and Stein, because they are so funny. And they are such good visual storytellers and visual joke deliverers that when I write something, they always know exactly what I'm going for and also like how to make it better, how to let it breathe and be its best version of itself. So I truly could not be in a better combination of creatives to just make this thing, do what you're describing, to make it feel like it's supposed to feel.
Yeah, with your experience in comic books, can you talk a little bit about how important that is, that from the writer creator standpoint and the artist, even colorist letter standpoint, that relationship of really understanding where you're all going? How important is that communication back and forth and understanding exactly what the goals are within the title that you're writing for?
Yeah, I mean it's everything because it's a visual medium, they store them with the pictures facing out. They don't store them with the author's name on the side. It's different than books. So I only write scripts, like maybe I'll write a novel all by myself one day, but like I only write in collaborative and visual mediums. So for me, I think it's important to remember that every project is different, and if you have a really established relationship with a writer, and you have this incredible shorthand with them, and you trust them to be sort of like the director, then I've seen excerpts from like Tom King scripts that he posts on social media where it just says like panel 4 on Batman, and then that's great. And then I've seen the first page of the Watchmen script, which is like the most, dense and small print and like micromanaged thing ever. And that working relationship also created a masterpiece. So I think it depends on the person, but I think that the writer needs to have enough ego to be a writer, to be a strong voice, and to be a guiding, driving force in the story, but not so big an ego that you forget that what you're writing is ultimately a blueprint. That you are handing this off to somebody to realize, not even to finish, but to realize. So I try to keep that in mind. And while I write like very specific scripts, I always write a little letter at the beginning with the standard caveat that it's like I am not the artist. So if this is impossible, or if there is a better way to execute this, or in the way, in the case of Darkwing Duck, if there's a funnier way to execute this, that is an approach that I always recommend to people who are writing their first comic script.
That's awesome. Well, let's talk about how you got into Darkwing Duck. Like, how did this all take place? Did you reach out to them saying, "Man, I've been a fan. I have this story that I would really like to tell," or did they just reach out to you knowing that your background and that kind of comedic writing style that, like, if we could get Daniel over here, this would be perfect for this title?
Well, I mean, you mentioned like how these collaborations are sort of orchestrated, and it's often the editor. The editor is sort of like the busiest person in the universe, and they're spinning all of these plates, and we're live in different cities from each other, and often have conversations through the editor. So I want to give a shout out on many levels to our editor Nate Cosby, who's also a comic book writer and has some some stuff you can check out, including a fairly recent Gargoyles special, if you like the Dynamite Disney books. But I slid into Nate's DMs, is what I've been telling people. Back when Twitter was still around, I don't
Yeah.
have it anymore, but back when Twitter was still around, I noticed that Jeff Parker, another writer that I'm friendly with, and that I'm a big fan of his work as well. He was doing a Negaduck series,
Mhm.
and I had thought that the Darkwing Duck flagship was ongoing, but I guess at that point they had enough scripts in the can where they were wrapping it up in preparation for what might be a new maxi series or what might be a new number one. It was kind of in vague terms at that point. So I sent Nate a message. I said, "Hey, I saw this Negaduck thing. I don't know what your slate is, but I am a Darkwing Duck guy. You know, I grew up. This was so important and transformative for me. So I would love to do like, you know, the Megavolt special, you know, like 30 pages of Megavolt or something." And he was like, "You know, we don't have any one shots scheduled. Do you want to do the title? Do you want to do the flagship?" He was like, "Yeah, oh, okay, sure. I can make that work.
That'll
I
work
can
out.
I can abide writing the new Darkwing Duck number one." So we took it from there, and it's been smooth. I mean, everybody knows what this is. Everybody's on the same page. Everybody loves it as much as the fans do. So, you know, from that first conversation, there hasn't really been any wilderness. You know, there hasn't been any debate. It's just like, yes, Darkwing Duck, let's go.
And then as far as the arc, like how many stories do you have kind of planned out and mapped out so far for Darkwing?
Too many, too
Too
many,
many.
too
You
many.
could
What
go
I've
a
been,
while then.
yeah, what I've been telling people is that because Darkwing Duck is a superhero character, you know, it lends himself really well to comics in that proud tradition of animation characters that make the jump into the comics, like you know, Harley Quinn or you know, Firestar, or, you know, the folks that now are like fully comic characters. So, you know, Darkwing Duck is a pulp hero, and they have a lot of comics too. But every time he's been adapted into comics, what the previous writers have done that I've noticed, not all of them, like some of the Disney Adventures stuff, you know, some of the old school stuff is straightforward adaptation, but most of the comics writers on Darkwing Duck have taken the opportunity to tell multi-part serialized stories, you know, or two-parters, or stories that are like very comics forward, like very comics stories. So, given that that had been done, and that this was supposed to be a fresh start, my instinct was to just act like these were episodes of the TV show,
Yeah.
like new episodes or lost episodes. So there is a overarching arc, very lightly serialized, about Darkwing Duck in the first issue writing his own autobiography
Yeah.
very prematurely, of course,
Of course.
and you know, forcing it upon Goslin as a bedtime story, and in their conversation realizing that he doesn't yet have a definitive archenemy. And how can a hero write their life story if they don't know the villain that they're defined by? So, broadly speaking, our series is about Darkwing looking for his archenemy. And then three episodes exactly. Every every three issues, we're also doing a look into Darkwing's past through the eyes of him as an unreliable narrator. So, you know, may or may not be canon, but a look into Darkwing's past. So this upcoming issue three, if anybody has seen the cover, it's Darkwing in like a martial arts temple. So we're gonna find out, you know, where he became a master of Quack Fu,
Yeah.
or you know where he says he became a master of Quack Fu. So yeah, every three issues or so, we're gonna do something that we've been calling the untold chapters of Darkwing Duck,
Yeah. Yeah.
where we look backwards and kind of check in on how the autobiography is going. But largely, every issue is its own story, beginning, middle, and end. You know, classic rogues gallery supervillain or supervillain team up that we've never seen before, because I want this to feel like the show came back. That's what I would want from a Darkwing comic if I was getting my kid into the character. This is something that I'd want to like pick up and read together to introduce her to this thing that was so important to me growing up, and hope that, she benefits from the same sort of like brain expanding like combination of like superhero genre storytelling and humor and sophistication and self-awareness. Because I think that's what made it work. And if we're going to have kid readers, it's also great to not need to read issue 2 to understand issue 3, or to read issue 1 to understand issue 7. Like you can just come in and buy whatever Darkwing Duck is on the stand, and you're going to understand all of it.
I mean, that's such a good point, especially for kids too. They could jump in at any time and really just get engulfed into the story. But I will say, I'm a big Conan the Barbarian, which is definitely not kid friendly. But
Sure.
I definitely don't want to send that to your kids. But I love it that there are short, 2, maybe 3 issue arcs, and then Conan's on a completely different adventure. And I don't know if it's the like society and all the changes that have taken place due to like Instagram and TikTok, where we just are not willing to hang on for like these long 12-ish, which is kind of silly. I mean, it sounds ridiculous, but I just feel like we've been almost built that way because of technology. And I feel like those comics that do have these short arcs seem to be doing a little bit better because people could jump in and jump out whenever they want, and they feel like they gain the whole story. I don't know if, as a creator and a writer yourself, if you kind of agree with that and you see that kind of trend amongst readers.
I don't know if I've noticed it as a trend, but the structure that you're describing hits on some of my favorite comics, like Usagi Yojimbo and Hellboy, where you really can sort of just read a chunk of it and get a complete story. But if you read all of it, then you get a saga.
Yeah.
And I think that, and there've been so many talented Conan creators, over the decades as well. I think that if that is something that you are capable of doing as a writer, it's really masterful. And I think that you're often making something very special. It is different, than buying Detective Comics every month. It is just it's a different thing than the steady pattern of like part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4. But they are magical stories. They are so important to me. And I'm also, you mentioned the attention span thing, but I'm weirdly optimistic about that because for every 10-second TikTok, face front sketch video, there's also like an 11-hour video essay on YouTube
That's a good
about
point.
like oh the secret parallels between Final Fantasy and SpongeBob, like so like I listen to a lot of like 3-hour
Yeah,
podcasts.
yeah.
So I think that there's enough sort of yin and yang with the short attention span, long attention span media that it dominates right now. That's kind of in some ways like edging out comics and movies and TV shows. A lot of like homemade kind of, direct to viewer Patreon fueled, intense parasocial relationships. Like, I think it's a really cool time. I think it's a really cool time to be a creator. I like movies and movie theaters, and I miss video stores. I wish that stuff had more momentum and potency, but I have to respect the success of what is happening and enjoy it as a fan of those things as well.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's a great point. I guess I mean if you look at like a Barnes and Noble, I feel like they've had a rebirth over the last 2 years. I'm wondering if maybe during COVID that also drove a lot of that as we're sitting at home. I mean, there's only so much you can consume online and on TV. Sometimes just snuggling in the corner of your couch with a book is kind of relaxing. So I feel, yeah, I think you're right. Maybe technology hasn't done the damage that we thought it's done, right?
Or or there's a pendulum swing.
Exactly.
I know that like I have Chappell Roan on vinyl. You know what I mean? Like Barnes and Noble is also like a manga store.
Yeah,
Because
exactly.
kids like those, you can throw them in your backpack. You don't have to worry about them getting damaged. I do think I certainly feel it. And I don't know about younger people, but I certainly feel like when I return to something that's disconnected, I feel more ownership. I feel more privacy and security. And it's like, it's like you're describing. It's like I'm curled up with something. And, it's not intrusive. And I think that parents like me who were extremely online might also want to present alternatives to screen time.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's very true. Very, very true. Well, I mean, Danny, if we could go back to some of your career and then we can end back on Darkwing Duck. I mean, you've been able to touch some pretty awesome titles, from the Valiant universe to obviously Marvel, which has been really cool. Is there a character? Obviously, Darkwing is really important, but is there another character out there that you are looking at? Like, man, if I could ever get my hands on that, whether it's Marvel, DC, or something like that. Just before you answer, what I would love to see you do is like a Booster Gold or something.
I would love to do
I
so.
think
That's
that
a
would
great
be
pitch.
amazing because there is like this comedic. He's like ridiculous. He thinks he's something he's not. He's kind of fibbing through his whole
Mhm.
superhero. Like all of that, I think would fit your style
Yeah.
of
Well,
writing.
legend in his own mind, right? Like that's
Exactly.
Darkwing Duck. Darkwing Duck is very similar, like so I love characters that are like so assured of their own greatness, that they can kind of, do no wrong in their minds. My answer to this question has always been Nightcrawler, but then last year I got to write Nightcrawler very briefly in a Marvel holiday special. So I'm gonna leave it at that. I've got more, but I don't want to jinx it, and they're kind of a secret.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, there's like two or three like dream, projects. Okay, one that I will reveal is that I badly wanted to do Archie meets Pacific Rim.
Ooh.
And and like epic five-parter, like when they meet, Predator,
Yeah.
like really commits to it. And for whatever reason, we couldn't make that happen. So I did get to write Archie All Action Special #1, I think it was called. It's very weird for Archie to have a #1 of anything.
Yeah.
It should be like
Been
number
around forever, right?
6 trillion. But I got to write like a Archie mecha story, like essentially do everything that I would have done with a Pacific Rim tie-in. So they fight an Evangelion type monster who has a hamburger for a head. So track that down. Uh,
I just try to imagine that in my head. That sounds awesome, though.
it's gross. He's real scary.
I bet, I bet. And then Valiant, you were able to touch Valiant, and Valiant has gone through so many different stages from the Jim Shooter days in the 90s to Dinesh in the mid, 2000s, and then kind of the rebirth of everything that just took place with Alien comics and everything that they were doing, which I was excited. I love Valiant comics. I'm a big
Mhm.
Exo Man of War fan, but man, that was pretty fun too. I
That was
wonder,
my first gig. Yeah.
that's
That was
incredible. Yeah.
that was how I got in. Yeah, I was very close with one of the Valiant editors, Alejandro Arbona, who still edits and also writes his own comics that you should check out. But I still lived in Chicago, and he would come by there from time to time, and we'd get a meal and talk about how I was trying to break in. So yeah, my first comics gig was Valiant. I wrote some fake ads in Bloodshot #25. And then when Alejandro got the opportunity to edit Unity #25, he did like this all comedy issue. So for that, I wrote. I'm trying to remember what all I wrote for that, but the main thing was GI Joe style PSAs. Featuring it was Ninjak and Faith, and there was a third one, Livewire maybe.
Maybe
But
live.
yeah, so that led to Valiant High, which I'm enormously proud of. Valiant High is tricky because it's one of my favorite things I've ever done, but you do kind of need to know a lot about like the Dinesh era of Valiant comics to like get all the Easter eggs and stuff.
Yeah.
So I love it. I think it's like a great like all ages superhero book.
Yeah.
I do tell people to check it out all the time. If you like Archie or you like Scott Pilgrim or something, like, those were my influences. Avengers Academy, the mobile game, was a big influence on Valiant High. And then that led to doing a run on Quantum and Woody, an arc on Quantum and
Completely.
Woody as well, who like Booster Gold, like Deadpool, like these great like humor characters that obviously I'm attracted to.
Yeah, me too. I mean, I wish there was a little bit more of it. I don't know if you know Matt Schofield. He is a storyboard director for The Simpsons. I don't know if you're familiar.
Definitely by name. I don't know if we've met, but yeah, no, I know
Yeah.
who he is. Yeah.
So he has a his own comic book called Steamroller Man,
Oh,
which
cool.
is absolutely hilarious. It's literally exactly what it sounds like. He's a superhero and he has a steamroller as a head. And by day he wears glasses so no one will notice him. And once he
Sure.
takes those glasses off, right, he's Steamroller
Oh
Man.
my gosh, it's Steamroller Man.
Oh, it's such an incredible title, and I'm a big fan of that title.
That's
And
magnificent. I will definitely pick that
gotta
up.
check it out, Daniel. I think especially someone like you with your comedic timing and that love for like the Tick and Earthworm Jim, you will absolutely
Yeah,
love it.
man.
There's a
Oh,
couple
dude.
that are really
While we're
good.
talking about this, shout out to Minor Threats as
Oh
well.
yeah,
The Minor
that's
Threats universe is like so exactly in the wheelhouse of like the Tick and similar. Yeah.
yeah,
Cannot
Petson and
recommend
all
those a
those.
lot.
Yeah, that's
Or
great.
enough. Cannot recommend those enough.
Yeah, yeah, those are good. I just feel like we need more of that in comics, man. I'm a big superhero fan. I love superheroes. I love horror. I love everything that Ghost Machine is doing right now with Hyde Street and all that. But man, a good comedy comic book, at least when you walk in your comic book store, outside of the Tick, which is probably like at the top for me, it's kind of hard to find, to be honest. So I wish there was a little bit more of it.
Yeah, I have this, I mean, predictably, I have this conversation a lot. And what I always say is that when you go to the comic book store, you almost, if you're buying comic books and not bound volumes, not graphic novels or trades, if you go to the comic book store for comics, you get a stack.
Yeah,
So what I've been telling people is like, yeah, get the red band Wolverine for sure. Like get the thing where he's, get Daredevil brooding on the rooftop in the rain, but like pick up Darkwing Duck. Just take a breather. It doesn't all have to be violence and angst. You know,
exactly.
if you're
Sometimes you need
gonna
a break up from that too, right? And this is a great break and a lot of
That's
fun.
it. But yeah, build your stack, pace it, go to the coffee shop afterwards, have like have an order. Everybody who goes to the comic book shop has an order when they sit down. They know what order they're reading those in. So yeah, get Darkwing Duck in there. It's gonna make the fuller experience, more rich.
I love it. I love it. Well, outside of Darkwing Duck, what else is going on in your life, Daniel? Are you still doing some producing for some TV shows? Are you still doing some writing? Okay, is that something that you're allowed to kind of talk about, or is that stuff
I
you're
am. I am. I mean, the problem with that stuff is that it takes so long
yeah,
that I can't really talk about any of it in any detail other
sure.
than to say it's very exciting.
Yeah.
Like I'm very lucky to get to work in animation. There's some stuff that I got to write on last year in the sort of adult animated comedy space. So, if you like your Bob's Burgers and your Simpsons and Rick's and Morty's and things like that, I guess follow me on social media or just continue subscribing to every streaming service because it's going to be on one of them.
Yeah.
And then more recently I think with some of the comic book work catching people's eyes, I've had the opportunity to talk about characters I grew up loving, video games that might make good TV shows, board games or card game universes that might make good TV shows, or ancient movies that could be like a really fun animated series. Because that is, sort of what the industry looks like right now. Like it is a very IP focused world that we're in right now, where companies like that are trying to maximize the potential of the libraries they already own. Or if you're making something original, like Minor Threats is a good example, maybe it should be a genre and a tone that is
Hmm.
already familiar. So it's almost like you have an IP without having an IP. And then that will sometimes lock the audiences in and give you the opportunity to create something really fresh and new that belongs to you and the team. So that's sort of what my life looks like. It's terrifying. I have a house and a family, and I'd like to keep them. So we're chipping away. But people know where to find me. Just call the bat phone, and we'll talk.
I love it.
We'll we'll figure something out. We'll do something about James Bond's dog. Who cares?
Yeah.
Let's just do it.
Now, what is your approach? Like, how different is it when you're writing for like an animated series compared to like a comic book? Is it very similar in approach? Obviously, how it's probably written on paper is completely different from storyboarding, but is your approach very similar in how you would write both?
For me, it's pretty different
Okay.
because comics are so regimented. The comics are really made of parts. Like you can kind of, with comic books, you can kind of keep splitting the atom. So I think about the book on the shelf at the comic book store, at the bookstore when it's finished, and then I think about the 6 issues that have to go into that book, and I think about the 22 pages that have to go into every one of those issues, and I think about the 1 to 9 panels that have to go on every page. So I do a really fine outline with comic books, like often a page breakdown outline. And I don't adhere to it strictly. Like I allow myself to stray from it and kind of let the thing be itself and find aspects of it. With breaking an episode of television or a series of television, like I usually have a boss who has a very complete vision, and it's my job to understand it and always to be moving in the same direction as it. And there's a lot of really good formulas for writing an episode of TV. I know a lot of people like the sort of Dan Harmon famous circle story structure. I've used it. I think it makes sense. For me, an episode of television can kind of come from anything you can't live without. So if there's a joke that you can't live without, I think you can build an episode of TV around it. If there's a plot conflict that needs to happen at that point in the season, that's the card that you put on the bulletin board, and then you build the television episode around it that allows that to happen. So I think we've all internalized enough story that if you're working hard and you're doing multiple drafts, you will get something that looks like the story circle, regardless of whether you began with it.
Mhm.
So with comics, I'm really rigid. With TV, I'm a lot more flexible. They take longer. You have more collaborators at the writing stage, and I think that there's more ways in, and that the structure can be a little more flexible. Or depending on the needs of that episode, the structure must be more flexible.
Yeah, yeah, incredible. Yeah, I would definitely think that there would be very different. But thank you for that explanation. I think a lot of people want to know, like, if you have a storyline that you want to shop around for like a television series, it probably should look a lot different than how you would put together a comic book, right? So I
Yeah,
think
I
the
think
type of
that's
thing we don't.
true.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think with if you're pitching, I would say the advice I would give is that a comic book should be as complete as possible. Like a comic book should maybe be done, like an issue one or something. Whereas a TV show, those happen on such like a high stakes level that for me, it's been beneficial to go in with more of a very potent idea that everyone can get excited about, and then you're all sort of playing in the sandbox together.
Okay.
So, but there's no formula. It's tough out there. So I think if somebody loves a story and wants it to exist, really there's 2 rules. Finish it.
Yeah.
No, no, 3 rules. Finish it, show it to someone, don't use AI.
Yeah, exactly.
That's it.
That
That's
last
it.
one's really important.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you don't have to write the way I write. You don't have to pitch the way I pitch. Just finish it, show it to people. Don't use AI.
Yeah. Incredible. Now, as a creator writer, have you dabbled into creating your own storyline that maybe you would like to do on your own as it like an indie? Or have you thought about that at all?
Yeah, I'm getting there. I have not done a creator-owned title yet. One, because I feel very lucky to have access to, the things that I grew up being a fan of. I think that when you make television shows, there's also like always the math of like, oh, could this be a television show? Or does it really need to be a comic book? So, spending some time with that idea and figuring out whether it's really like for the medium of comic books, if that's the best way to serve it, or will this comic book read like a failed TV show? So I'm kicking some stuff around. Hopefully in some medium, in the next near future, people start seeing things that say created by Daniel Kibblesmith instead of saying assisted by number one Darkwing Duck fan Daniel Kibblesmith.
I think both are cool, by the way, so that's pretty awesome.
No, same. Yeah, no, they're both dreams.
Exactly. All right. Well, last question I want to ask you, just because I think we have kind of the same desire for comedy. Have you seen the trailer for the new Naked Gun, and what are your thoughts?
Oh yeah, no, I saw it. Yeah, no. This is Liam Neeson is the most logical
Yeah.
choice for this. One of my favorite movies is Darkman.
Yeah.
And Darkman was such an interesting movie at that time because it foreshadowed both brutal action Liam Neeson and also Looney Tunes comedy Liam Neeson. So when I saw this, I really felt like, yes, the prophecy has been fulfilled.
Yeah.
Like we got him there. So no, yeah, obviously I'm on board.
Yeah. I was so excited when I saw the trailer and they're all kneeling before their fathers. Oh, I lost it, man. That was such a good
It's
clip.
good stuff. And I worked on something last year where we were also watching a lot of clips from not even the Naked Gun movies, but Police Story, the
Oh,
television program
Academy.
that predates. Yeah,
Yeah.
so if anybody the no the Leslie Nielsen one, the
Oh,
one that
okay. Yeah.
Naked Gun sort of like Naked Gun TV show before it
Yep.
was. And man, those are speaking of like proto Adult Swim, like those are so wild. So I highly recommend people get on YouTube and enjoy some canonical texts.
Exactly. I couldn't agree more. Well, Daniel, I can't tell you how much I appreciate getting the opportunity to meet you and have you on the podcast. For all of you out there, issue two is in stores right now. Get over there and get issue two. Hopefully, you'll be able to find issue one as well. If you love Darkwing Duck, this is a great time to jump on. Both issues have been amazing, Daniel. So, congratulations. Really happy for you, and I cannot wait to get issue three into my hands. And then if you could just let us know, like, how do people follow you? What's the best way to follow you? I know you have a website that I'll put down below as well, so people could see your collected works. But as far as social media, where do people find you?
Social media, I'm just on Instagram right now. I'm at Daniel.Kibblesmith. I'm pretty addicted to it. And yeah, I have a website. Even though it's 2025, I still have a website.
Yeah, it's a
So,
great place though to see all your works in one place, which is pretty impressive.
you might as well. You might as well. And if people in the Los Angeles area where I live are looking for Darkwing Duck number one, I know that they had signed copies last time I was in there signing them at Mega City One on Melrose
Nice.
by the Groundlings Theater. So that for sure is one place that I have seen number ones available to, and number twos. They're also signed.
Nice, nice. So anybody in that area, get over there right away and get your signed copy. That's pretty amazing. And then as far as like Comic Cons, are you pretty do you do any of the cons at all, Daniel?
I haven't been tabling, but the plan is to be at San Diego and New York. Oh, I'm going to be at C2E2.
Oh,
So
coming up.
I'm from the Chicago area originally, and I'm going to be at C2E2 as well. So yeah, Chicago, San Diego, New York. I'm not going to have a table. But if somebody wants to say hello to me, if you see somebody, it's probably me.
Yeah.
A lot of guys at Comic-Con who look like me, so maybe not, but roll the dice.
I love it. Well, I am so happy to get an opportunity. I hope this is not the last time, Daniel. I'd love to have you back. Maybe,
Anytime, anytime, hit me
yeah.
up.
Yeah, it
Hit
would be
me
a lot
up.
of fun, man. I really enjoyed our conversation, and I thank you very much for providing the time to share everything that you're doing right now.
This was a blast. I really appreciate it, and thanks for the opportunity to talk about this stuff that I'm so proud of, and the entire team has brought their A game for. It's going good. If you like Darkwing Duck, this is it, man. Come get it.
Exactly. Yeah. Couldn't agree more. It's been a lot of fun the first two issues. So, well, Daniel, I hope you have an amazing rest of your week, and thank you again for joining me today.
Thanks for having me. I'll see you next time.
All right, talk soon.
You're still here? It's over. Go home. Go.